interesting that Jeannie mentioned transformation. She was talking when she read the daily word, transitions become transformation. And that's really true. And it's more true, and we can see it manifest more and become real in our life when we begin to really know in advance that even though we're uncomfortable in the moment, we'll get through this. This too shall pass. And then we can see, if we claim our blessing as that song, we can see it coming together. And this is part of the power of gratitude as a practice. If any of you know who Oprah is, of course. You know, that's one of the biggest things she says she's ever done to change her life was gratitude journaling every single day. And it's not easy. Anybody ever tried that? And how long did you last? 2 weeks. But that's good. That's actually, better than most people. Most of the time we start our little notebook. I can't even tell you how many notebooks I have that, have some kind of practice started that I was doing really well, and then one morning I woke up late or whatever. And it's so good to do those things first thing in the morning when you're still in that drifty space before you've checked any kind of electronics. Just sit down and, the ones that really do the practice well don't repeat their list, unless you forget it, like some of us older folks might do. But, if you can look around and find something new to say, I appreciate, regardless of, it's not about whether or not it's a phenomenal thing in your life. It can just be the littlest things. And the more you can appreciate the tiniest of things, the more you see, the more you do that. It's like, have you ever bought a new car and you picked a color and you're like, oh, I don't see this color on the road, and then all of a sudden that's all you see is that same color? Whatever you put your focus on is what you find more of. So when you put your focus on gratitude, you just find more and more. It's not like they're suddenly coming into your world, which is what it feels like. All of a sudden everything's showing up for you. It was already there. We just couldn't put our attention on it while we're focused on complaining and worrying and all the, it's the hardest thing. It's easy when we look at an escape like this, right? I don't know if this is Ireland. I'm not sure where that's what it makes me think of, Ireland or Scotland or something. Very lush and green and vibrant. You get so many messages from an image like that of life and sacred geometry and movement, and you just feel, so you can really feel into a beautiful image like that. But do you stop and really appreciate it? Really take the time to go, oh, and let yourself just have that deep breath and breathe in that moment. Our theme for the month, we like to have a theme, even though different ones of us speak. We come at it from different ways, but it's gratitude and grace. And we were having our discussion about that, and Jeannie's like, yeah, we do gratitude at Thanksgiving every year. So we threw grace in there to kind of give us a little bit of an expansion on the idea. But what would you call grace? Okay, you're not going to answer me. So I'm going to give you a definition.
It's hard to put into words.
It is. So there are 3 of the dictionary definitions. We always think grace, like Grace Kelly, right? Elegant, simple, refined, something we can kind of go, oh, I see, that's just so simple. But I love the second one, courteous goodwill. How hard is that for all of us to be gracious and graceful every single day with courteous goodwill? We're thinking of other people instead of just ourselves all the time, and we're doing that little thing. Hold the door at the grocery store. Return a cart and don't leave it in. Probably none of you do that. That's the worst thing in the world. Leave your cart in the middle of the parking lot so somebody's going to drive into it. Those little tiny things are expressions of grace. I'm thinking of others and not just my own convenience in this moment. Because sometimes it seems inconvenient to take that 15 steps back to the front door with your cart. But once you've done it, no big deal, right? It's just like in your head. It's such a bother. but you're going to do it, right? That's your courteous goodwill to the world. So in that moment, you are being gracious. It's not that hard. You don't have to be Grace Kelly. We can't all be, whoever else. Audrey Hepburn also came to mind because she always played those characters. And she lived a very gracious life. She did a lot of charity and goodwill and philanthropic. But it's about connecting. That goodwill brings us connection with others. And even if we're not physically connecting with others, our consciousness of goodwill goes beyond. Last time I spoke, I talked about the quantum field and how that energy moves out into that field, which we also refer to as God, right? There's nothing you can do with putting goodwill out into the world that is not going to be responded to. You've heard the story about the butterfly and whether or not if a butterfly's wing flaps in North America, does it affect weather? It's a ripple effect. It expands far beyond us. So gratitude, we all think we know what that is. Thank you, I appreciate that. But readiness to show, this is the quality of being thankful, but also the readiness to show appreciation and to return kindness. Readiness to show appreciation. So thank you, thank you, thank you. We say that a lot, especially as Southerners. We like to say please and thank you a lot. Most of us, I don't know, not everybody. But showing appreciation is, and I'll talk about it a little bit more in the talk, but it's more than just that casual. That casual thank you matters. Yesterday, my niece's friend, my niece is in her 40s, but her friend kept calling me ma'am. And at first I was like, I'm just hanging out with my niece. But that's a show of respect. I was grateful for that. I would appreciate it. And we know the word appreciation means the raising of the value, right? So she's showing me respect as her friend's aunt, and I'm giving her appreciation for the respect she's showing me. There's a exchange of energy, that courteous goodwill going on in such a simple little thing. But it's going on all the time. We're putting that out into the universe and we're receiving it back. And if we do receive, sometimes when people say thank you to us, we play down. Oh, well, no, that was just, I was already heading that way. I didn't go out of my way. But why not just stop and take that appreciation in? Because, when you stop and you really receive someone's appreciation, you are returning their kindness because you're receiving the gift that they've given you. And that's another courteous exchange right there. Kindness flowing back and forth. So I love the Greater Good Science Center. I've used their references before, but Berkeley University, it's they have so much research on positivity and goodwill and love and kindness and generosity. And so if you ever want to go just find some good things to read, go to their website, which is thegreatergood.org, I believe. I should have put that on here. But they just have all kinds of stuff, piles and piles about gratitude. So some of my favorite is the way it literally changes your brain. Gratitude is powerful. I remember I did a talk years ago, and I was doing my reading. I didn't come back across it this time, but that even with people who have narcissistic tendencies, we all think a narcissist is just throw away, they're beyond help. But if they want to change behavior, gratitude is a way to get them to start connecting in with empathy and connect with others in a way. And we all have a little bit of narcissism. It's not like it's them and not us. We too are they. So the first habit, think about death and loss once in a while. Ooh, that sounds terrible, doesn't it? Nobody wants to. Nobody wants to think about it, but we just had Dios los Muertos. And that was a celebration. In the Hispanic community, they literally go to the cemetery and have a party because that's where their relative spirits are in. That's, they're everywhere, but they want to celebrate people who were here with us physically and who are still here with us in our hearts, and whatever your belief is about that. but they're still around because we connect with them. We connect with the consciousness that existed. And last week, I was looking online, Rev Russ did an amazing little ceremony to honor that grief, that pain that comes with loss. But you know, the beautiful thing about that is taking time to do this, to feel into that grief, allows us also to feel into the love, because the grief is just an expression of love. It feels lost, but actually love never leaves. Love is an energy, and it can never leave us. It only leaves our consciousness. It only leaves our awareness. So if we move through that grief, we spend time thinking. Let's say you have a spouse who annoys the heck out of you with some kind of pet peeve. But if you sat down one day and you just really reviewed what your life would be like if they were to leave for whatever reason, you could really tap into that feeling of appreciation for what it is that you're afraid of losing. Sometimes when we criticize people, you know, we're actually putting a wedge in there. But if we sit and we contemplate, what is that I would miss about the presence of this individual? Get your mind off of the peeves. You know, that's the first thing. Our little reptilian brain wants to look at all the things that are threatening to us because they make us unhappy. But if we can just shift our focus and just leave that in that bucket over there and put our focus on the things we really love about them, they will feel that, again, that ripple effect. They'll know that gratitude. You don't even have to tell them. But if you find some things you would like to appreciate in them, they will respond. Have you ever heard that little thing, you know, if you're in a relationship, instead of telling someone don't do this or don't do that or that makes me mad, say, you know what, it really makes me happy when. So you call from them the behavior that you appreciate, because that makes us all want to do it, right? If you say to me, I really like it when you do this, I'm going to try to do more of that because I know it makes you happy. It's our human nature to want to make one another happy. And so this is just one of the ways that they've researched that you spend some time thinking about loss. And nobody wants to do that, right? Nobody wants to think about what's going to have to be taken care of. But it's just part of the cycle of life. There's nothing to be afraid of. And even if it wasn't death or if it was someone who left you, we can always reframe what's going on as something else, something there's good to be found in it. The second habit of people who have really good gratitude practices is they stop and smell the roses. How often are we just trying to get from here to there as fast as we can? My niece lives out in the country in Perrin, and it's a beautiful drive out there. And then I sometimes go stay out there and drive over to Hot Springs Village to do some of my energy medicine classes and stuff. Or there's a community over there I like to. But that's such a pretty drive. But if I'm only focused about here to there, I have to literally stop myself sometime and go, wait, look around. You know, don't just stay focused on whether or not there's a squirrel in the road, or, you know, you want to, of course, pay attention to that and not hit things. But look out at how the rolling hills. I mean, Arkansas's got beautiful landscape. There are horse ranches. There are just so many things. Or even just your friend. You know, just look them in the eye and appreciate that eye contact, that someone lets you in to their soul through their eyes. You can just stop and take a moment and go, wow, I really appreciate that I get to have this experience with the world. That raises our vibration. It amplifies it out into the world. And when we do that, we allow other people to do the same. We start that ripple effect. We can be the center of it. Another thing that they say is they take good things as a gift and not as a birthright. You know, sometimes we think we deserve. And, you know, I know that's one of those special little things you want to believe I'm enough and I do deserve. But you deserve from your own creativity and your own, you know, you deserve to express yourself. But you don't have a birthright for someone to do what you want them to do, or, you know, to express whatever you want to say. if it's not gracious, if it's not courteous goodwill, maybe you want to stop yourself before it comes out of your mouth. I don't know. It's a thought. What are we doing in the world? You know, how are we showing up? That's the question every day. We take good things in our life as a gift. I've got a car that's 20 years old, and every time I get into it, I just feel so much appreciation for it. Yeah, I mean, I need new tires now. It's like, well, the tires probably cost, no, the car's probably got a little bit more value than a set of tires, but I love driving that car. I loved it the day I bought it. I love it every time it gets serviced, but it just makes me feel good to appreciate my car. Now, if I want to go and judge myself based on the fact that I drive a 20-year-old car, I could diminish the value I feel towards that car. Or I could just go get it waxed. You know, I mean, I appreciate it. It's a thing, but I appreciate people as well. You know, it's not just about things and gratitude. Gratitude is a consciousness. It's not just about attaching it to something. And we don't have a birthright for anything other than love, because that's who we are. That's how we came into this world. But we don't have a birthright to get love from someone that we think, you should love me, you should approve of me. If we start as love, then we'll receive more of that. If we demand it from others, we're contracting, we're cutting it off. We can't demand it from anyone. And sometimes if you think you're complaining that someone doesn't love you the right way or enough or whatever, or doesn't behave or show up, you're just shutting it off. You're not going to get more love, more peace, more joy into your life by that. The only way you get more is to be more. Yeah, they're grateful to people, not just things. So it's easy to say, well, I'm really grateful that my car is one of the last models built, you know, with this certain VIN number that, you know, it was put together well, and it'll probably go another 100,000 miles. And as little as I drive, that might take me another 10 years, who knows? But that's a thing. But what it's really powerful to be grateful for is the presence of other human beings. Because my car is a dense thing, and the vibration of it is low. But if I appreciate a human being, then that vibration amplifies. Because as I appreciate people, people can receive that. Whether they appreciate me back or not, they can receive that and amplify their own self-worth, their own vibration into the world. We can't always just be looking for someone to acknowledge us. We just need to be out there giving it out generously, that love and appreciation, and it'll come back some other way. It may not be from that one particular source that you're giving it to. But love and appreciation are just our natural states. It's what makes our life so much better. And giving it to other people where they can feel it. And I think I've told you guys sometime about my experiences walking by the Guadalupe River when I lived in Kerrville. And I did a meditation one time where I always would walk and admire all the wildflowers and how they change every day. But in this meditation, I had this experience of me appreciating the wildflowers and them appreciating right back. Mm-hmm. And I was like, whoa, they're really feeling that vibe of appreciation, even though it's a flower. But that was true to me. My meditation taught me that. It's like they really are feeling, and we know that there's been a lot of research on plants. You know, they're water, that vibe moves through the water. It's a real experience, but it took me in meditation to kind of be consciously aware of it. Are they admiring me right back? I don't know, but I think they're probably appreciating the vibe I'm giving them through my admiration. Mm-hmm. It's a wonderful experience. I never thought that I was actually getting something back other than the visual. of the wildflower. But actually in that experience, I'm having an exchange of energy. And you can do that with people. You can do that with things. This is a good one. They mentioned the pancakes. So what does that mean? That means be specific. Be specific. Say, Travis, I really appreciate how you are so committed to making sure there's hospitality every single week, and you come and you make sure that there's something for people to snack on, and you greet people, and you show up, and that's a commitment. One of many commitments you have to this community. But just saying, oh, thanks, you're great, is nice, but being specific. Thanks for the pancakes, thanks for the cookies and the nuts and whatever else you put out every time. I appreciate it because it means something to me. If you can go on to tell someone, like in nonviolent communications, when you say, I appreciate it, because this is the feeling I get, knowing that you're there. If you make me breakfast, I feel loved. I feel like that's an act of service to me, and it matters because I'm a person who values service. I like food too, but I value the fact that you would show up and you would do that and you would give that to me. And if you do that with people, they want to show up and do that more because they know it makes you happy. If you tell people what makes you happy, they will give you more of that. It's just our human nature. I know I'm repeating myself, but I think some things are worth saying more than once. And then this final one. What? Yeah.
I love this.
Think outside the box. Yeah, we've heard the phrase think outside the box. But think outside the box. So find all those little ways, and there are a lot of ways to say thank you. Sometimes, any of you familiar with the book about the 5 love languages?
Yeah.
And so it matters to people if you take time to figure out what they value, and then you do that. See, as human beings, we think everybody's a reflection of us. We've turned God into a reflection of us, right?
Yeah.
The man on the cloud, judging and being a certain way. We turn our friends and our relatives into a reflection of us as well, and believe me, they're not that much of a reflection of you. Their preferences are their own. So if you are someone who appreciates gifts, you'll want to give gifts because you value that. But the fact is, your friend or your spouse or your loved one might prefer time spent together. That's my biggest love language, is someone who will sit and have a conversation and look me in the eyes. You can buy me a gift, but if I want something, I'm probably just going to go buy it. So it's like, and you get to a certain age. When you're younger, you really appreciate it because you don't have as much disposable income. But when you get older, like myself and my siblings, if we want something, we get it. If we don't, then a gift is fine. I've never been, all about the stuff. Oh, you wouldn't believe that if you went in my house because I have too much stuff. But that stuff is just, that's not what makes me happy or feels appreciated. Now, find that out about people in your life. What do they value? You could bring that book and have them answer, questions, or you could just get to know them a little bit better. But it's so natural for us to want to give stuff to people as a way to express our love. But for many people, that doesn't really convince them of anything, because it's your words and your actions that convince people and tell them who you are. So think outside and think outside the box. What's a different way that you could show up for someone that would really mean something to them? Drive them to a doctor's appointment, or go take a walk, or a lot of things don't cost any money, but they have tremendous value, and it means a lot to the people in our lives. So in another article, they talk about gratitude in this way. They say processing a life experience through a grateful lens does not mean denying negativity. So let's say you have a transition that's happening and you're not comfortable because your reptilian brain is telling you change is a threat. I'm uncomfortable. I don't know what's going to happen next. I'm going to be in fear mode, even though you might not have a reason to fear, but that little unconscious voice is saying you, red alert, something to be afraid of. It's not a form of superficial happiness or what we call spiritual bypassing. They didn't use this term, I put it in there. We call that spiritual bypassing when we're always going to be talking about what we're grateful for and always on that happy lolly land. That's why in Unity we have the prayer format that we have. But they say instead it means realizing the power you have to transition into a transformation. Looking now, even though it feels uncomfortable, even though it looks chaotic, I'm going to claim a blessing. I'm going to say, here's where I'm going with this. I don't know what anybody else is doing, but here's where I'm going with this because I know it feels better. And they say it means reframing a loss into a potential gain, recasting negativity into positive channels for gratitude. Again, it doesn't mean ignoring the circumstance. It means in my prayer time, I'm going to say, regardless of appearances, I go ahead and claim my blessing. I go ahead and know that when my focus is right here, I'm stuck. And when my focus is over here to what is coming, I'm just looking for it to show up because I know it's already here. It's already truth for me to get through this difficult time and get to that place where I could be grateful. We call it denial and affirmation, right, in our prayer process. Those words were from the articles online, so they're not talking about spirituality. They're just talking about gratitude and that vibration and the research they've done and what makes people tick and express in a certain way. We call it denial and affirmation, even though it appears I was laid off from my job in July and I don't have an income. I know that there's something for me, some way for me to show up. So I just keep looking for it. I have to keep my vibe out there so I resonate with what it is I'm looking for. If we get ourselves stuck in this, and it's people want to commiserate. I'm not sure. I guess it's that reptilian brain, right? We want to huddle together and have a cup of coffee and complain about how this circumstance is unfair, that it's not right, that does nothing. You can do that for a little minute if you want to just let that energy move through you, but then turn around and say, yeah, regardless, I know how truth works. I know how the world expresses. And we can get to that point where we feel free. Where you really can face all the difficult things and say, okay, I see what I see. My insurance company hasn't, blah, blah, blah. That we've had that conversation so many times, Lorraine. It's easy to share with you that what hasn't happened, but it's better if I can share what has happened, even though we've moved through some challenges of communication and agreeing on dollars and all that sort of thing. I know it's all unfolding as it should to my highest and best. And I'll be happy with the outcome when we get to that point, when we've moved through this time. In 1 Thessalonians in the Bible, 5:16 through 18, it says, rejoice always. Pray without ceasing, giving thanks in all circumstances. This is wisdom from thousands of years ago. We pray without ceasing, without even being aware that that's what we're doing, because every thought and every word is a prayer. And being in unity, you know that. We have to own the fact that when we express anything, even our complaints, that's a prayer. And so listen to ourselves, right? We have to be aware of what we're putting out there. It's our responsibility. We're not blaming anybody for circumstances that are difficult. We're just saying, acknowledge it, choose differently, choose how you express it. So I'm giving you a little practice this week to be gratitude. Not just express it, but embody gratitude. Be it in the world. Find all those little subtle ways to notice when there's an opportunity to express gratitude, to make it about the pancakes, very specific expressions of gratitude and feel how it feels to you, and know that if it feels good to you to express it, it's feeling really good to someone else to hear it. And choose to express it. Sometimes we think something, but we don't bother to say it because we think, oh, somebody's going to think something of us if we go and be effusive and say how much we care about them and how much, if we're doing something from our heart, why are we so worried that someone's going to judge us? If they do, that's about them. That's not about us. We can be our authentic selves, and then we need to be able to receive, graciously receive when people do express their gratitude. Let's not push it off as something unimportant. Take a moment and say, I appreciate you taking the time to share that with me. Because you know what? If you say, I appreciate that you took the time to be specific and share that with me, then they get something right back. Mm-hmm. They get your appreciation for their appreciation, and you're amplifying. This is how it works, right? When we have our coherence, we amplify one another in goodness and in love. So thank you guys for being here today and online, whoever's out there. We want to say thank you for all that you've been giving and make you aware that if you usually give on